In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do a Time magazine mockup. And so I will link to this file, the magazine cover file, in the YouTube show notes. But you'll see there's lots of folder systems here. So first of all, this is an example of kind of what we'll be mocking up. This is a Time magazine cover with President Barack Obama on it. And we're going to make something that looks kind of like this. So first thing to do is let's recreate the red and white border outline. To do that, I have these little color palettes down here. I'm just going to set my colors to that. So down here on the left, if these are the two color images you got, the first one is a foreground color and this one's a background color. It just really lets you keep two colors in your repository at a time. So I'm going to select that, and then I could select the color up here to try to find that red, or I can just use this color picker and click down here on the palette. So I've got that selected. The background, let's select the white. Okay, now I've got the red and the white selected. I'm going to hide the color palette, and I'm going to expand this image, the Time magazine image, to fit here. This kind of gives us something that we can work from so that we can make sure we're making the border the right size. For this though, these design elements, I've got some examples in here. I'm going to want to do this on the design red and white border. I'm going to create a new layer. So click on the bottom right button here for a layer. And it's created a new layer. This layer is still visible down here, but we have this new layer here that I'm going to title border. Okay. And one of the easiest ways to get this red and white border, there's a number of ways you can do it. But one of the easiest ways is to select the rectangular selection or marquee tool, and then click and drag for the whole canvas. Make sure you are clicked on this border here. If you're clicked on this layer down here, it will actually put a big red box over the whole thing. And we want to maintain this so we can see this stylistically what Time has done with this magazine. So we come back to this border. Once you have all this selected, you can do Shift F5 or come up here to Edit and do Fill, or you can click down here on this little icon. It looks like a paint bucket that's spilling. You click that, and then we're going to do the foreground color, which is what we've selected as red. So now we have foreground color over the whole thing. We don't want it over the whole thing. We want to get just the interior portion, right? An interior portion like this, and delete the interior portion so we have just a border. So what I'm going to do so I can see the Time cover down here is I'm going to click back on this big red box we put in here and make it somewhat transparent by coming to this opacity box here. I'm just going to say let's make it 40% transparent. Okay, now we can see what's in the background. Making sure I still have this layer selected, I'm going to do a new selection in this area and hit delete to cut that out. If we hide the Time magazine cover, you'll see that that red border is there. It's kind of see-through because we have the opacity turned on, but that's a good start there. You don't want to lose the selection. The selection's still there. If I click somewhere on the canvas, it will remove that selection, but I want to keep it because now I'm going to stroke it with white. So to do that, I come to Edit and then Stroke and select my color of white. 8 pixels is pretty good. Center, what that means is it's just going to put the white 8 pixels on both sides of this little selection. And then I hit OK. Now if I hide the Time cover example, you can't see the white very good, but there is a little white border there. I'm going to move opacity back up to 100%. And now you can see even better there's a white border on that. So we've got the border done. Pretty easy, right? Next, what we want to do is we want to bring in, I'm going to do an image of myself. So I'm going to come here and pull in a layer. I'm going to put this under the image folder. So I'm going to create a new layer and call it headshot, even though it's not really a headshot. I've got a pretty good shot where it's got more of my full body, like what President Biden has here. I'm going to just click and drag this in. And you'll notice I've dragged it in to this, it put it on this layer right here, and it retitled it. I'm just going to call it headshot again. And size-wise, I'm going to see if size-wise that works pretty good. I'm good to just leave it how it is. You can resize it if you want to. But now what I need to do is remove the background. There's numerous ways you can do this. You can use, and this is usually the better way to do it, use a polygonal lasso tool or the magnetic lasso tool. This usually gets a cleaner cut. And what I would do is I'm going to just show you an example on my armpit here. If I wanted to remove this green background here, I would go like this and start clicking. The magnetic tool, what it does is it's going to auto-detect the difference in color by just me moving my cursor along. And so it didn't catch that corner. So I'm going to click right there to get a nice clear catch on that. And if I just move it along and kind of stay generally close to the area, and I click in this spot here to get a nice new start. As I move it along, you can see it's creating those little boxes. Those boxes are kind of like points in time where it's going to keep it, even if I move it adversely away. And if I get down, let's say I go like this, I messed up. You hit the delete key, and it removes some of the previous boxes, and you can move your cursor back to where you were at and keep going. Okay, so you hit the delete key as many times as you need to remove some of those old boxes. Once you get back to where you start, if you look at the bottom cursor, the bottom of the cursor, there's a little circle. It's not there, and now it is there. That little circle indicates that you've closed your selection. So I click, I have that whole thing selected. I'm just going to hit delete. Oh, so it is a smart object. It is not directly, if you see something that says a smart object, you cannot edit it. You need to right click on it and then go to rasterize layer. What it's doing is it's taking away some of the data that you could have used to alter it. That's okay. Once you've got it the right size, you're good. But it's making it editable. So what I did is I went to right clicked on it and went to rasterize layer. Okay. Once you've got that, you hit delete, and you'll see that part of Barack Obama's suit coat's coming through the background there, but it's now transparent, just like I want it. So that's a good way that you can do it. Using that clipping gets a better removal than using the AI does. But what I'm going to do is just click on this remove background for the AI and see how it does. It'll do a fair job, a good enough job for this example. Yeah, pretty good. If I was doing it myself, I would, if I was doing it like for some professional reason, I would have used the magnetic lasso tool to do that, but this is good enough. Now I'm going to move myself. I like my elbow. That elbow looks good. Oh, but you can see it is cut off a little bit. So I'm going to move the elbow right there so the elbow goes off a little bit. I feel like this is a nice dynamic look. Oh, excuse me. Now what I want to do is get this gradient background. You'll see there's a gray to a white gradient background behind President Obama. I want that. So I'm going to turn off these layers really quick. Well, I'm going to leave this layer on first. I'm going to reselect these colors. For the foreground color, I'm going to select this dark gray one down here, kind of a greenish gray. And then for the white one, I'm going to select this right behind President Obama's collar here. It's a nice, slightly gray-white. Now that I've got that selected, I'm going to hide the President Barack Obama layer and come over here and click on gradients. When you first click on it, it will probably be selected. This item will be selected right here, and this will do a linear gradient. So it's just a long line. I'll show you right here. Let's just do an example. I'm going to come to background, create a new layer, and put it in the background folder. I've already got a layer in there, so I guess I'll just use the layer that's already there. Use layer 1, and you'll see that I could do a gradient like this. To do a gradient, you just click somewhere on your canvas, and I go like this. It's showing up the borders around it, because if you notice, the border layer is higher in the order than this one is, and thus it is doing it behind the border. I can always click this again and move it some more. So this is how you do gradients. Pretty cool, but I do want that circular gradient where it's white gradiating out to the grayish green. So I'm going to just undo those gradient fills, and you select the second box at the top for this one. What will normally happen, it'll probably not be reverse when you first do this, and it will look like this. If I click in the middle and drag out, that's the overall style I want, but I want it to be light in the middle and dark on the outside. So what you do is you click reverse, and bam, I got it. It's as easy as that. So that's how you do a gradient. Now let's turn on my mugshot again. Oh, that's looking good so far. No thanks to me, but just thanks to this gradient and that red background. So now we want to do text for our title. We're going to do text for the time first. You'll notice that I selected the folder. The reason why I did this is now if I come over here and click on the T for the text tool, once I click here on the canvas, it is going to put the text layer inside this title folder. So I'm just going to click here, and you'll see the layer is now inside the title. I'm going to do caps time. That does not look good because it is an Arial font. We want a Times New Roman font, and I want it to be, we're going to do a white color. I think white will look good. We're going to make that much larger. So I can change the font size up here to make it larger. I can click in this box and punch in a new number. Or when I've clicked in the box, I can do the up arrow key on my computer and it'll make it larger, or the down arrow key and it'll make it smaller. Or I can also click on the move tool, and it allows me to transform this. So these little boxes here are allowing me to transform. If this is not showing up, then you can do Control T or Command T, and then it will show you these little boxes that allow you to change it. If I click and drag here, you can see I can make it, let me bring this back down. I can make it really tall and thin or long, right? But because the font has specific dimensions, I want to keep those dimensions. So I'm going to say Control Z, Control Z, Control Z a couple times till I get it back to where I want it, like this. And now if I hold down the Shift key and click and drag, or if I click on this little icon at the top right, this is a link that will keep the dimensionality the same between the pixels, right? I'm going to click that. That's the same thing as holding down Shift while I click and drag. Now it's keeping the dimensions the same. And I want to make it nice and big, like so. Okay, that's the Time magazine headline. If I click and drag it, I can get it centered. You see that the center line turned purplish pink color. If you're not seeing the center lines, you can go under View and then Show and Guides. I think these are the guides it'll show, maybe Canvas guides. You can kind of click on these and see what it does for you. But I like that. It's a big, bold, large time. It's kind of right there. I'm good with that. I'm going to say I'm done. However, I want this to be behind my head. There's a couple things I could do. I could do a brush and remove it. I could do an eraser and remove it. I could create a mask and a brush. The easiest way to do it, though, is to simply, I'm going to take this whole folder, the title folder, and move it inside the image folder, and then move my headshot above it. I click and drag it to get it above it, making sure it's not in the folder. I've dragged it up. Now it's layering it and puts my head on the top. So that's the kind of the style that we had with that Barack Obama thing. So I'm done with the image, the background. Now I need some text up here for some interior article stories. So I'm going to put these in these text box. I do have some examples for you here in case you're going fast and you don't want to have to do your own examples. I've got these design elements. What I'm going to do is click design elements and move it up above the design folder. The reason why I'm doing that is if you want to see these headlines and just borrow from them, you can click to show this folder, and the headlines is clicked as well. Now I can come in here. I'm just going to select this, the dog one. I like that. Dog elected mayor. So here's an example of something you could quickly copy and paste, or you can do your own. So I've selected that text when I had this layer selected. I copied it, and I'm going to paste. I'm going to text it up. I'm going to put it up here for a substory. For that, though, I need to scroll down. I'm going to make that story number 1. I'm going to click here and do Control V. Okay, so it did that. I'm going to get this on 3 lines. Let's see. I don't know where I'd break the lines. I'm going to say mayor of small town promises more walks and treats for all. I'm going to turn that into an and sign like that. I actually don't like how that was broken. Let's say a small town promises more walks and treats for all. So that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to select this. I'm going to make it a white color, a white font. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. Let's go up to like a 17 font size. I like that. I'm going to make this Times New Roman as well, so it looks a little bit more pristine and clean. I think there's a little bit too much space between the lines, so I can change that over here with, I think this is called leading, that's what this is called. I can select it. The font size is 17, so if I go down to like a 14, I need to select it all first. Okay, now if I come here and go down to 14, that's a little bit too small. Let's go to 15. Let's go a little bit larger. Let's select 16. So, I lost it. Okay. 16, that's good there. So it's a little bit tighter, quite a bit tighter, but it leaves space around it. I like the space. I've got that title there. I'm going to just duplicate this because I've got the good style already. Let's see, duplicate layer. That's fine. I'm going to put this in the second article one. And I'm going to move it over. Because it's in the same spot, if I want to move it, if I click it and start to move it, it might move it down or up vertically, and I want to keep it aligned with the other one. So I'm going to click to move and hold down Shift and then drag it. By holding down Shift, it's keeping it on the same horizontal plane. If I had dragged it down far, I could have got it on the same, if I started dragging it down, I could have got it on the same vertical plane, but now it's locked in horizontally. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to use the title, what is this? Robot vacuums declare war on houseplants. It's all caps. Robot vacuums declare war on, I'm going to put declare on a new line. Declare war on houseplants. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I've got 2 titles for different articles. Now I need images. If you come up here, I have some images. I've got plant robots and I have dog mayor. So I've got 2 images we can use. So I'm going to click on both of these at the same time. I'm going to make this section, the layer section larger by clicking and dragging. If you click between the 2 zones, the 2 panes, you can click and drag it larger. I'm going to drag these down to get them down here. I'm I'm going to put the dog mayor one in the folder with 1. I'm going to resize the dog mayor one, get it a nice and small thumbnail. Oh, I was holding down shift, but this was already locked. So by holding down shift, it was undoing the lock. I'm going to bring this over here like that. I'm going to click on the robot vacuum. I want it the same size. So I'm going to bring it up here and then just drag like so. I've got the thumbnail about the same size. I'm going to click and drag it over here. I'm going to move this to the left a little bit. I'm going to move both of them down. So I'm selecting both of them in this. I've got robot vacuums and this. I'm going to move them both down slightly to get them kind of in line with the images. I'm going to move them to the left a little bit. Oh no, didn't want to do that. I need to reselect these. Okay. Move them down and to the left ever so slightly. That's a little bit too far to the left. I've got them down. Anyways, you can see how you can just keep clicking and moving these. The dog mayor image, I need to bring over here a little bit. That's looking pretty good. I feel good about the spacing. The time title is a little bit tight. So I'm going to come back in here for time and drag it down. Oh, excuse me. A little bit like that. Give it all more space. Okay. Now I feel good about these headlines. If I zoom out, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I don't want this to display. So I'm going to come up here and turn off design elements. But I do have a barcode I want to use. So let's pull barcode down. Barcode is one of the design elements. If I click and drag it down here to this folder and turn it on, we'll see it's way too big. So let's make it smaller. Oh, it's already bound correctly. I'm going to put that over here. Maybe over here. Nah, over on the right is kind of where you'd expect to see this. Zoom in a little bit to try to get it kind of lined up, the same spacing there. Okay, I feel good about that. So now I'm zooming out. I feel pretty good with this. I need a major headliner type story, right? It goes right here. So let's put that under, let's hide design. We've got box 3 doesn't have anything in it yet. So on box 3 is where we will put this headline. We're going to say worst Adobe Photoshop teacher ever. Ouch. I'm going to do Arial. I'm going to do it bold. I'm going to change this one to that red color. I like that. It's too big, obviously. Let's go with 50. Let's go with smaller than that. Let's go 40. Okay. Excuse me. I'm a little under the weather today. If I select this, I'm going to change the kernings a little bit. Or I don't call it this kerning, they call it hat tracking. I'm going to change the tracking to get the letters, each individual letter, a little bit closer together. And I also want to make less space between the words there. So I'm going to do like 36. That's good there. Okay. Now I can click and drag this down here like that. I can put some subtext down here if I wanted to. I'll just do that real quick as well. Some subtext. I'm going to do it in black probably because I think the white will get lost on my shirt. So I'm going to come here. Ranking all the worst I'm gonna do, yeah, Photoshop teachers across the globe. I'm gonna make it black. I'm gonna do this Times New Roman. I'm gonna make it not bold, just regular. Let's make it not so big. Let's do like a 24. There we go. However, now the kerning is much too big. Let's go 18. No, let's just keep it at 24. Not the kerning, sorry, the space. Is that called kerning? It's not, it's called leading. You see what I'm doing there? You can get creative with it. The black is getting lost on my blue coat here. So you need to be creative. You would need to be creative to get this to show up. You gotta try some different things. But for the purpose of this exercise, I think you know what I'm doing here, right? And then lastly, I'm gonna put I'll just put it in this text box. Actually, I'll put it in this text box up here. I'm gonna do another text layer right here and just say the date. It's a September 2024 issue. And it's hidden behind the design. I'm just going to bring it up here. It's not in a folder like it should be, but that's okay. September 2024, we will do Arial font on this. We're going to do 14 point, and let's move it over and bring it up a little bit, and we'll call that good. So I'm going to save as. You could just save it over itself, but I want to keep the original one. Clean magazine cover, and Beck, and save that. Okay, now this image is looking good. To export it, you can come here and do File, and then Export. You can export it quickly as a PNG, or you can use its normal export functionality, or I like to save for web legacy. This is how I do it. I come over here, and I'm going to say JPEG high quality at 677 kilobytes. If it's too big down here, with like 10 megabytes, you can select PNGs take more space than JPEGs usually. You can select different versions of the JPEG. You can do high, you can do maximum. You can change the quality here instead of changing it here. You can change the image size. You can do lots of things. But this is good for this exercise. I'm just going to click Save. I'm going to save it over that JPEG. Good with that. And now I have an image that I can use around the web. What I'd like to do though, one last thing, I'm going to show you. This is a file. It is from Envato Elements. So I encourage you to check out Envato Elements. This is a template that it gives you. I can quickly mock up my magazine and make it look really nice like this. All you have to do, you have two different designs. Your design here, this is the top magazine. This layer, your design here, is the bottom magazine. All I need to do to mock in my image is double click on the little, I double clicked on the rectangle right there, and it brings it up. Then I'll just click and drag it actually. Magazine cover, boom. I'm gonna save this, and simply by saving this, it's kind of saving this new canvas. Once it's done saving, it will just show up there. I'm gonna open this one, do the same thing. I'm gonna do save. Once that's done saving, you'll see that there looks quite nice. So I'm gonna just save that. Because I'm gonna probably share this on LinkedIn to promote this little tutorial, I'm gonna cut it. To cut it, I select the canvas I want, and then go to Image, and then Crop. It's going to cut the image down. I like that. And then I'm going to come here and do Export, Save for Legacy, or Save for Web. It's 1.6 megabytes. That's too big. And it's because the image size is huge. I'm going to say I want it to be 1200 pixels wide by 597. And now it's only 84 kilobytes. That works. I'm going to go higher quality. I'm going to say very high. And then save that. I'm going to say it magazine mockup. And that is how you can create your own Time magazine, mock it up in a canvas like this, and have fun with that. Hope that helps.